Dzień dobry, witam Państwa serdecznie. Ze mną Matthew Jennings, Fidelity International, osoba, która przyjechała do Warszawy, żeby opowiedzieć o flagowej strategii Fidelity, czyli Global Equity Income. Jest nam bardzo miło posłuchać, jak dobierać spółki do portfela. Przygotowałem serię pytań do Matthew i mam zamiar je za chwilkę zadać. Teraz pozwólcie Państwu, że przełączę się na język angielski. Matthew, happy that you are here, happy that I was able to hear all of your presentation. I'm also happy that you can introduce or show the strategy that should be the base of the portfolio, but for sure it's not the base of the portfolio in Poland. Please, if you could characterize the main fundamental strengths of this strategy and how you define high quality income stocks and where you find those companies, how they differ from growth stocks that are so popular in wide indexes.
Sure. Yeah, it's really great to be here. This is an amazing event. It's good to meet so many investors here in Poland. And I'm happy we can present this strategy because I really do believe that this is a great tool for people to build wealth over the long term with lower risk. And that focus on risk management is really important for us. And you asked about how we define quality and attractive valuations, and that really goes to exactly the heart of how we define risk. So let me elaborate on that a little bit. So when we talk about quality, actually investors will mean different things when they talk about quality. For us, it really comes down to resilience and visibility. That's really important. So we want companies that are producing cash flows in a way that we can understand, why we know what's driving their profits, and we can also predict how that might evolve over the future, even if the macro environment changes. Because obviously, currently, the global economy is growing, but that's not always the case, and there are significant risks that might change that in the future. So we want companies with resilient cash flows and profits, with great business models that we can understand. Another important aspect of quality for us is a conservative use of debt. So we don't like when companies use a lot of leverage because that increases risk. Mm-hmm. And for dividend investors, this is particularly important because if a company takes on too much debt and that debt becomes expensive to finance, usually it's dividends that get cut and those profits or cash flows get diverted towards debt holders. So those two aspects of quality are very important for us. Now, when it comes to valuation, this is all about paying a fair, or if possible, a discounted price for those quality assets. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to compromise on quality, but ideally we also don't want to compromise on valuation. The way we value companies is on free cash flow. So the cash profits that the companies are generating from their operations. And this is really important because it's those cash profits that are going to pay dividends and that can be used to reinvest in the business. So that earnings, price to earnings multiples, very common valuation metric used by many investors, but earnings are effectively an accounting outcome and they can easily be manipulated by companies. Unfortunately, they regularly are manipulated by companies. So that focus on key free cash flow is an important part of our valuation discipline. And we really want to own companies that are trading below their fair value, let's say, below where their peers are trading and below where we think they could trade in the future.
Okay, so when we look widely for the portfolio, you are describing the companies that you are choosing as boring companies.
Yeah.
Can you define what boring means for you, and how does it differ from companies that we know, like Magnificent Seven companies that are popular in media? In every investor's portfolio you can possibly find at least one of those companies. So what's the difference? And one more interesting aspect, because during the presentation you were showing the past performance of dividend aristocrats compared to MSCI All Country World Index. And surprisingly, the annualized performance for dividend aristocrats were bigger. Can you please explain this phenomena?
Okay, so firstly on what do I mean by boring companies and why do we actually find boring companies interesting? You know, what I mean by a boring company really is one where it doesn't have a lot of excitement, expectation, high growth, you know, these parts of the market. At the moment, the market is obsessed with this idea of AI, and every company is trying to position themselves as an AI winner because they know that that will get them a higher valuation in the market. But what that means is that companies that are not growing that quickly, or where they don't maybe have such an exciting story, going back to my earlier comments on valuation, they trade at much more attractive valuations. And this is why boring companies, I mean that sounds a bit rude, but what we mean really is companies in stable, predictable parts of the economy rather than these conceptual, thematic parts of the economy.
And paying dividends.
Paying dividends, typically more mature, older businesses that have been through economic cycles and, you know, weathered the storms that the economy can throw at you. They might be boring, you know, from a storytelling point of view, but the outcomes that they can give you as an investor are anything but boring, right? They can be really good outcomes, and they can unlock those wealth-building properties that equity markets have. Because, this is really important, in order to get the best outcomes as an equity investor, you need to stick with it for the long term. And you're more likely to do that if you have stability, right, and predictability in your outcomes, rather than these big dramatic moves up and down, because that will make investors panic or overexcited, and then they will try to time the market, and that's not, you know, history has shown that's not the best way to invest for most people.
Is it possible that you give us some names of the companies that you are investing?
Sure.
And the names of companies that are not included in your portfolio,
Oh, yeah.
but are usually the leaders in MSCI All Country World Index.
Yeah, so I was just talking about boring companies, and maybe one industry that is often regarded as being a little bit boring is insurance, and motor insurance particularly is a low growth, you know, part of the economy. But we have a couple of positions in the motor insurance sector, a US company called Progressive, a UK company called Admiral. Progressive, despite being in this sort of lower growth market, has delivered amazing returns on a backward-looking basis, 25% a year annualized shareholder returns, right? So that's actually higher than some of those tech giants that everyone regards as things that you must own in a portfolio. So outside of insurance, we own consumer staples companies. Mm-hmm. So there's companies like Unilever, the UK-based consumer staples group. They have a big health and personal care business. They also have a food business. A lot of exposure to emerging markets. Industrials would be a good category for us as well. Within industrials, it's really important that these are really high quality businesses with clear competitive advantages, and they're not going to be thrown around too much by what goes on in the economy.
And what companies are you excluding from the portfolio?
Well, so at the moment, we don't have exposure to what is known as the Mag 7, mm-hmm. right? These technology
Not even
companies.
One position.
Not even one. Yeah. We have owned these companies in the past. We may own them again in the future, mm-hmm. but today we don't.
And what's interesting, majority of those companies, Magnificent Seven, are not dividends payers. They don't pay dividends.
Correct.
Okay, why basically you believe that dividend stocks are the good choice for the next decade?
Well, I think what we've seen historically, and I don't see any reason that this should change in the future, is that and this links actually back to your previous question about dividend aristocrats. Companies that can provide consistent dividend growth over time tend to be well-managed companies with confidence in the future and that visibility of cash flows. And this means that they can they're in a better position to continue to be strong whatever the economy throws at them. So if you're an investor that is looking to sort of maximize the wealth building properties of equities and take a long-term view on equity markets, investing in these dividend growth stories at attractive valuations, it's a great time to do that, particularly perhaps given the risks that are building in equity markets and the economy. And I have in mind particularly here valuation risk, because when we look at global equities, it's very dominated by quite a small number of companies in terms of the index performance. Around 65% of the index is in US equities. Around 40% of the US equity market is in the top 10 companies, right? NVIDIA has a $4.5 trillion market capitalization. Now, I remember a few years ago when Apple hit the $1 trillion market caps, it was a big story. NVIDIA is now 4.5 times that size. So some enormous valuations going on, and this is all based on the expectation that AI delivers meaningful productivity and gains for the economy. The evidence for that is relatively hypothetical at the moment. So if that story becomes questioned more generally, those valuations could come down from where they are. So again, that valuation discipline helps us to manage that sort of risk.
Thank you very much. I hope that this brief explanation will be very helpful for the investors in Poland. What sticks to my mind is resilience and income, and I wish you good investment choices and I wish you good investment returns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.